We've got our last session. I'm going to ask all the panelists of the last session to come up. While they're coming up, I feel like singing. Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen. I mean, maybe not, okay? So we've got Jim Wolff, Head of Digital at the Leith Agency, Al Thomson from Unique Events, Tom Rice from Glasgow City Marketing Bureau, Kevin Bain, who you saw earlier from the RNA, and Isabel and Stephen are going to join us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, don't sit down. Don't sit down. Stand up at the front of the stage. Okay? So we are going to ask you a question, and I just want you to respond in whatever way you feel like. Okay? And then I'm going to go out into the crowd, and we're going to get you to ask questions, because you've been too quiet. Okay? So the question is, what does digital success look like? What does digital success look like to you? Anybody want to begin?
More bums on seats.
The volume,
So
yeah?
I'll be polite then. More customers.
Sorry, I've just realized that I've probably annoyed the sound guys because these are all numbered
right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3. Just go 3 again.
It's real world impact. So for us, it's more customers.
Anybody else?
Content.
2.
We could shuffle around. Content.
6.
I think it would be incredible if you'd see an increase of people posting about your brand without you asking them. So it means you have to do something to trigger them in the next couple of months.
I don't have an answer. I just want to say that's not my photo. No, I think I look very different. I've got hair. It's been a long time since I've had hair. I think for us, it's a bit of a cop-out, but I mean, we don't define success. Our fans do. Our patrons do. You know, if our patrons choose to engage with us and continue their partnerships with us. So yeah, I mean, I think we kind of just become or start the conversation and just let everyone else finish off.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a second question. Then I'm going to ask people here. And the second question is, if you're going to give any practical tips for anybody to do in the next day or so, just practically to implement some of the things you've been hearing today, what would be something practical you would like people to take away? 5.
5. I would focus on content. I think a lot of tourism business and destinations, content is not sexy to invest in, but it's really important. And it doesn't matter if you create your own content or if you let your visitors or guests create content, as long as you focus on content and a good content strategy.
6.
Number 6 feels like an auction, by the way. Yeah. And I look like a giant, but that's something else. One step before that, I would like to recommend everyone to focus on your social. For instance, a couple months ago when I helped out Heineken with their global social media strategy, they're not on Google+, for instance. They are making decisions on where to be, and they realize that they don't and they can't be everywhere. And I guess for everyone here, realize where are your consumers and focus on, rather do 2 things really well than try to do everything and keep up and doing everything a bit.
Number 1.
Number 1, finally. Yeah, got to be really quick. I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out. I would say really focus on mobile. I mean, a few speakers here today have said that. I read a great quote last week from a guy from BuzzFeed, the president, and he was saying having a mobile strategy is like having a side dish of steak, in that it's the main course now, and we still tend to think web when we're designing sites, we're designing experiences, even when we come at it from a mobile first point of view. So I would say if you just to go back and have a think, what are all the touch points that people are coming at your business or your organization via mobile, and consider, are you really servicing them as well as you can?
And number 2?
Get help. Get help and get support, and there are people out there. If you don't know how to do it, There will be people who are there who can help you and point you in the right direction of what you should be doing. And again, likewise with events like today and the e-tag workshops that get set up to show people how to engage with all this stuff and create it, the support is there. So if you need help, just find it.
Are you saying to get help because also you need it now that you're 40 today?
Very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other thoughts before we go to the crowd?
Just one more about getting help. I think it's amazing that for the first conference, how many people are actually here. But just check at your place if you can team up with others. Teaming up. I mean, if you need a training or whatever, why not team up with other brands that are also within tourism and travel in your destination, and see if you can just share knowledge and work together. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and number 5. What's also important, if you look at destination marketing, it's now about destination management. And you should, as an industry, you should work together to give the visitor the best experience ever. And that means you should collaborate, should work together on all these different levels. But if the experience is good while people are visiting Scotland, then they will tell others. And if others hear their story, they will come and visit Scotland.
Has anybody got any questions from the audience that they'd like to ask, or even observations? Anybody? Yes? Just say who you are and who are you from.
Hello, my name's Jane Beaton and I work with the Slow Adventure in Northern Territories project. I just want to ask, how important is online booking facility in all of this? Is it worth somebody getting involved in all of this if you can't then click to book? Should they get that first? Where should the priority be?
Yeah, go on number 2.
I think it's entirely dependent on what you're trying to sell. I mean, for us as a festival and an events company, we are selling tickets. We want to drive people to our website to buy tickets. So that booking, whether it's through an accommodation provision or through an attraction, that's where you want to be sending those people to. And certainly what we've been doing social media-wise, as much as it's about engagement and generating content, we want to sell tickets. So it's probably our number 1 priority of making sure that's an easily accessible format.
Thanks. So would you say that's essential as opposed to more traditional forms of booking that many tourism businesses still have, where they expect somebody to go onto their website and email them or phone them, or some of those slightly out-of-date versions?
I think from our side, and again, looking at an event of what we do, such as Edinburgh's Blogmanay, we still provide the traditional formats. You will have audiences who are comfortable doing their own booking process. But as we'll see, and as everyone has discussed today, more and more people are pushing towards mobile, about that engagement of having handheld devices where they'll go in and make that transaction within a few clicks. That's where we're going to go as everything kind of tails off, I suppose, in the more traditional formats.
I think it's the same as the channel strategy, as the content strategy. It's whatever relevant for your customers. And if you put your customer first and know what their behaviours are, then whatever digital model you put in place needs to be fit for purpose for them. So there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. And we've heard more about the prevalence of certain channels or certain markets and behaviours, but it's whatever's fit for purpose for your particular customer.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, although I mentioned the importance of mobile to us, and we still send out physical ticket booking forms. There are some people who've bought tickets for the last 25, 30 years, and they fill in the booking form with the credit card details and they send it in. So they can phone up and order it. I guess it's just giving your customers the choice, being where they are.
Any other questions from the audience here? Yeah, oh gosh, there's 2 ahead of me, sorry about that.
Rodney Johnson, I'm just going to start out in luxury travel. Just wonder, is a logo or a catchphrase still relevant today? Like my friends here are starting a motorcycle business, and theirs says, "Let the journey begin." McDonald's is obvious because of the M that you have. Is a logo, catchphrase, is that something that people will remember, stick in their minds? Is that still important today?
For us, for the open, Absolutely. I mean, we just rebranded the Open for last year, and it's built on the 1-2. So it's the one to win, the one to watch, the one to remember, the one to share. So for us, it is, and I think what was important for us when we were developing the new logo was the previous logo. The champion was the claret jug, and then kind of secondary to that was the Open. Whereas we kind of flipped that on its head. So the Open is now kind of what it's all about, and the claret jug is what what the golfers win. So, yeah, for us, I certainly hope so, because we've invested a hell of a lot of money into it.
Yeah, I was going to say, from the advertising agency, or the person from an advertising agency, we get paid for this kind of stuff. So I have to say it's a great idea, and everyone should have one. And I think it's very useful having an end line or having a strap line. We have and we work a lot with Iron Brew, who I know not essentially in tourism, but we have this sort of phrase, gets you through. And what this does, it's not so much an end line, but it's something that helps us create content around it. So we can build it through, and it's helped us create a whole series of films and other content. So not only does it kind of round off what your the essence of what you're doing and what your brand is, but it also helps you kind of build content, build a story, and build interest around it. So it is important, but then also they can change as well. So it's not the be-all and end-all to have something. You can always move on as well.
And Glasgow, obviously.
You would expect the man wearing a People Make Glasgow brand badge to say it's very important. I think it helps clarify the proposition. I think it also, in our instance, has helped galvanise the community around sharing in that message and being communicators of a joint message. And People Make Glasgow was developed through a crowdsourced online conversation that took place in 42 countries. With the success of that conversation, the success of the way in which we developed that brand has now translated through into all of our activities. So everything is a conversation, everything is people to people. So if you get that proposition and that clarity of proposition, then it can help accelerate your digital strategy.
I was just thinking, that's the Glasgow, and in Edinburgh and in Hogmanay, you went with Blogmanay.
Yeah, well, yes. And again, in terms of brand, we kind of, and I think probably Elizabeth is the same in terms of what we do of festival creation, because we actually change, not with our corporate identity, but our actual look and identity year on year to try and maintain a new kind of attraction to that and audience engagement. But one of the things that we have produced over the last couple of years is a new digital campaign aspect to Edinburgh's Hogmanay called Blogmanay, which actually goes into the same format of the blogger groups that were discussed earlier on in the Room 753 campaign. It's a very similar format, but it's very effective. It's bringing large-scale bloggers that are coming along, big influencers to share the experiences of what happens in Edinburgh and Scotland, and we promote that to a big social media audience. But that in itself has become a sub-brand of Edinburgh's Hogmanay. So in creating its own identity, it's now becoming very successful.
Yeah, 5. Oh. If you look at a destination brand, I think a destination brand is built socially because it's the stories you hear about the destinations and the experiences you have when you visit a destination. But I think it probably is different than when you really have a product brand, because an experience is something different than a product.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Caroline Warburton from the Scottish Tourism Alliance, and one of the questions that I've been thinking about is around travel apps. We've had a few mentions of them today. However, I'm not entirely convinced by them, and I was just interested to hear from the panelists whether you think travel apps, particularly maybe destination apps, are a good thing.
Do you have $110 million to make a great app? Again, I think that some of the campaigns and the investment that obviously these destinations are making within those contents is incredible. And if you have those resources and that money to hand, you can do fantastic things with technology, as you saw with the discussing earlier on with Queensland and what they are doing with that. We, as a festival, as an event for Ms. Hogmanay, have kind of strayed away from apps. We do, again, go more mobile. We have a responsive website, which will work within that rather than having a specific app itself. But saying that, we don't have the resources or the money to hand to invest heavily within that format.
Yeah, can exclusively reveal we do not have $110 million in Glasgow. And we actually had an app for our kind of shopping product, the Style Mail, 5 years ago. So developed on Apple platform. But what about Android? What about BlackBerry? Oh, Apple have just updated we need to change it. We need to keep investing. That was at a time where Wi-Fi was not perhaps as predominant as it is now. So the app gave you that connection with the customer when they weren't able to download data. Wi-Fi is more prevalent now. Mobile responsive sites is the way to go from our perspective. So we've moved away from the app to mobile responsive.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think it's more important to invest in a mobile site or a responsive site than in an app. Because, for example, while I was traveling for 6 months, I only used TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Agoda, and some special apps in Japan for the public transportation, but that was it. And I haven't even downloaded any of the destination apps while I'm working in destination marketing. So.
Hello, my name's Neil MacArthur. I'm interested, earlier on you were talking about curating or being a curator of content on a site rather than creating. What are the legalities around being a custodian of other people's content on your particular channel?
From our side again, and with the Blogmanay campaign, what we do is we specifically research and source the bloggers which we feel are most relevant to come to the city and to Scotland to experience what we have to do. And then it is very much a discussion with them about content generation, about what they're creating, what's right for their market, creating specific itineraries around what they are. And again, it's a discussion with the providers of those services, whether they are hotels or restaurants or bars or tourism attractions, of what we're going to generate for them and with them. And then with the bloggers themselves who are creating that content, they will provide us, as part of their agreement and engagement, an amount of content that can be used for us for free promotional use afterwards. And again, it's just a discussion about making sure that we're all working together to generate that content and it's there for use. In terms of public content, again, if it's good enough quality, then we will use that. And whether that is in terms of retweeting or making sure that you always have the source and back to the original generator, then the whole social component of the social media comes into play of making sure everyone's doing what they need to do.
Yeah. Just to add something to that, a lot of DMOs say, right, tag your photos with hashtag visit or love, etc. Actually, that isn't legally, it doesn't legally allow you to use all that content. But the thing is that a lot of people are honored when they see their pictures suddenly pop up on one of your channels. But to be legally right, you need to ask that person first if you can use their content. And if they approve, you should actually make a screenshot of that. And then you're allowed to sort of use it for your own Instagram channel or whatever. That's the way if you want to be absolutely safe about it. Now, I don't know any DMO that does that. So I guess here it's also something like just doing it and of course tagging their account. And 9 out of 10, or I'd say 99 out of 100, would say fantastic, awesome that you're using my content to promote this destination. So you need to think about what you feel most comfortable with.
From a DMO perspective, we've got two solutions. So the content that is generated through the social media channels, if we look to reuse that, we actually ask the permission of the generator and engage in a conversation with them about what we would do with it. And also, if you go on to peoplemateglasgow.com, plug, there's a section of that site which asks the question, what makes Glasgow great? And you'll see on there that's a learning from our development of the city brand proposition, which is to aggregate stories, poems, words, visuals, content about Glasgow. And on there is the legalities of the disclaimer and usage of the content. So you can see two different solutions in operation from our perspective.
Okay, So I'm going to finish off the questions from the crowd. We're going to do a wrap up. But finally, I'd just like you to maybe say if there's one trend or one consumer behavior that hasn't been mentioned today that you think is going to be of interest in the future, either technological trend or consumer behavior in different markets, what do you think that is? And I just would ask one thing from each of you, Jim.
It has been said, but I do love the impact of something like Periscope. If you have a big Twitter account, especially the first time that you use Periscope, all your Twitter followers that have Periscope will get a notification. So, and I used it just a couple of months ago at an event, and the event hosted 80 people, but by the end of the event, there were 450 people looking at the event through my smartphone. And I thought, well, that's an amazing way of gaining reach, sharing content, getting a bigger audience, especially because putting up an event costs a lot of time and money, so you get more value for money. So use that.
Number 5. I just want to give a tip, and I heard it, I think, 2 weeks ago at a conference, and that's do the marketing in the year we live in. So if you see, we live in a fast-moving world with technology, so just ask yourself the question, when you're working on a marketing plan or a marketing campaign, is this the marketing for the generation I'm doing where we live in right now?
Again, it's been mentioned, but I think data is specifically big data. Everyone's talking about big data without really understanding what it means. So I think more and more companies will be investing in a data or CRM strategy to really, I think, offer some unique content or personalized content to their fans and customers. I think there are some companies doing it already, but consumers are getting more and more switched on that if they're going to give you their data, they need something in return.
I think from our perspective, probably my big take home is I don't know what it is, the next big thing, but we need to have a digital mindset, a digital culture, digital behaviours embedded within Glasgow City Marketing Bureau, that whatever that might be, we're ready for it. We need to be agile. Everyone needs to have the word digital in their job description, and whatever the digital world brings, bring it on.
It's probably a good time to mention China. I think that is what we're looking at specifically. There's a great campaign, Get China Ready, which has been set up this year just to specifically look at the emerging Chinese market. What we are doing as a city to make sure that we are ready and offering what we need to for those customers and that audience. And it was interesting to see that the Copenhagen destination, specifically as kind of standard, have their Weibo channel and are creating that content for that market, which is something that we are looking at and working with ETAG and the Scottish Government this year on a specific China component to Blogmanay, and we're going to see how we can kind of generate content specifically for that. If you do want to get involved, you should speak to Max.
Okay. Max. Max is over there. Yeah, so I think just finally, I think for me, there's sort of almost two sides of the same coin, or a sort of or split. But the kind of the move towards self-service and people wanting to sort of sort themselves out. They can book themselves. They can sort themselves. You know, they want to look after things. They want to kind of save as much time as possible versus human interaction. And there's some services like Airbnb and Uber and so on who kind of have built businesses, big businesses, on being very efficient at the self-service, so everyone can set things up and do it themselves. But then also Airbnb in particular really kind of playing on this sort of human interaction and sort of getting these sort of human connections together. So there's this combination of being more digital but being more human, and somehow kind of finding a place in the middle.